Swastiastu.
Om Swastiastu.
Om Swastiastu.
Welcome to Usada Bali. My name is Scott Bauer and I am a founder of Usada. I want to thank you all for coming out and supporting Dr. Usada, the cultural events, the cultural talks we do, and our friends, I Gusti Nyoman Darta and Jean Couteau. We're here tonight to discuss I Gusti Nyoman Lempad, who was the most famous painter of the last century, who lived to 116 approximately. There are a couple different versions of that, and he was not drawing his corner. And Darta's, I want to say, mentoring from him. Darta will explain more, but Darta was dropped at the palace at a young age, went through many stages in his experience and learning there. He learned to paint and draw from Lempad. And as we can see, his style is an evolving style of Lempad's drawings. And John is the authority, one of the authorities. To me, he's the authority on Balinese art and cultural and the evolution of Bali over the past 50 years. So I'm going to let them talk, and this will be about an hour talk, and then we're going to open it up for questions, which I believe there'll be quite a few, because this covers a fairly long period of history, from the early 60s till now. So without further ado, I give you Jean Couteau to introduce, and then it'll go back and forth. Thank you again for coming.
So, good evening. First, you will have to make do with two different types of accent. Yeah. My Gallic English and Darta's Balinese kind of English. Yeah. So, if you don't understand what we are talking about for a reason of language, yeah, don't hesitate asking us. Yeah. So now, perhaps the best is to start with Gusti Nyoman Darta. Yeah. Gusti Nyoman Darta is a middle-level aristocrat who was born in Bali and is an indirect descendant of the great Balinese artist Gusti Nyoman Lempad. Have you ever heard about Gusti Nyoman Lempad, all of you? Or is it today the first time you hear about this artist here? Has any of you heard about Lempad here? So first thing I would advise you to do is to visit the museums here, because he's an artist who has reinvented the line. But perhaps we are going to talk about the artistic aspects of this artist after we talk about the cultural environment here. And culture in Ubud, to a large extent, is into the hands of Gusti Nyoman Darta. Gusti Nyoman Darta is my friend and is also my suhu. He is my guru, you see. He knows so many things about Bali. So if I'm not mistaken, Darta, you were born you lived as a young man, you lived in the palace of Ubud. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little?
Talk about myself?
Yeah. Can you talk about your youth at the palace, your youth when you were with the princes, and when you were, of course, with Gusti Nyoman Lempad? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Om Swastiastu. Selamat malam. And I start, but I'm sorry, I'm not so good speak English. But I try to speak English because all is maybe not understand Indonesian. Yes, we talk about first of my grandfather, Lempad. Lempad is not real born in Ubud, but Lempad born in Bedulu.
Yeah, Bedulu is a village
Yeah, Bedulu is the village
5
where,
kilometers, 5 kilometers from
yeah,
Ubud. Yeah.
when in Bedulu area, before is the very strong kingdom. Very strong king there. They have a kingdom, very strong, more strong than kingdom in Majapahit. And then, so the king there is to like a strong man, and he can't believe with the God because he's strong man, strong power, not believe with the God, and then they listen from the Majapahit, and then Majapahit very angry and send the power of Gajah Mada come to Bali.
So, just a few words. What Darta is talking about is the origin of the small kingdom of Beduluya. And we find this origin in the invasion of Bali by the Javanese troops from Majapahit, which invaded Bali in the middle of the 14th century. Yeah. So Lempad was born in Bedulu, whose origin can be related to Majapahit. Yeah. Can you carry on, Tolf?
Yes. After that one, and Luz and Bedulu have many relief, many temple like Gua Gajah, like Nataran Sasih, like many carving in the bank of the river.
Yeah, so what he's talking about are the reliefs and the ruins you will find if you go to the village of Bedulu, you see, by the river, yeah. It was, you see, the most ancient site, historical site, still existing in Bali. We have only what is left of history, the ruins there, yeah.
And then they have a Lempad father, name is Gusti Mayuka, also born in Bedulu. He is very famous of the architect Balinese. Architect Balinese, on Balinese we call is tukang. And then they know about the size. Before they don't have a size from the how many meter, how many centi. They use size we call is Astabumi. Hastobumi is mean how many area they must building, how big area they have area, how big they must make a building.
So here what he's talking about, actually, we jump from ancient history to relatively modern history by the middle, let's say, of the 19th century. Yeah. And he's telling us that Lempad, I would say the almost world famous Balinese artist, was born as a son of an architect. Yeah. And in these days, people didn't use centimeters. Yeah. They use, how you call that? How you call in English, you see, measure systems based on the body of the people, of the king who was building a temple or a palace. Yeah.
And after that one, on 1862, Lempad born. And then Lempad, they don't going to school. They don't have a school. And then Lempad already aged maybe 7 years. He always follow the father where father going. They still in Bedulu. And then the father always making a building, making temple, making a statue, making mass, everything. Because the father of the Lempad very healthy hand, very help to people, all the people around in Bedulu. Even they also give medicine to the other people. Because before, don't have a doctor, don't have a hospital. Every people sick in Bali, they must going to the dukun.
So Gusti is telling us something important here, yeah. Lempad's father was actually a jack of all trades in traditional Bali. If you were an architect, it meant you played with cosmic symbols, yeah. And if you played with cosmic symbols, it means you could also be a healer, yeah. But perhaps what is more important, because he's delving into education, yeah. In the former times, and until the days of Gusti Darta's parents, yeah, the Balinese were not educated at schools, yeah. Their means of education was found in Balinese culture proper, you see. People were told how to behave, what to believe through attending puppet show theater, through witnessing Balinese dances. In such events, you have the clowns, and the clowns constantly tell people what to do, when, and how. Education was purely symbolic in these days, you see. Very different from the type of education we have now, where at school everything is structured as truth, as things that has to be known. In traditional Bali, through puppet show theater, people were taught through images and symbols. Yeah. So it means deep changes at the level the mind was functioning and is functioning today. Yeah. But Lempad's father, as he's trying to explain, yeah, grew, you see, in the traditional Balinese world as an architect. Yeah.
And then Lempad coming bigger, always learn with his father. And then Lempad already big, maybe 12 years old, and father of Lempad, and Lempad moved to Ubud. Because in Ubud, the king of Ubud, not to have area the big like now, still small, because before they have a big eruption, big quake, and then all the building falling down, and then the Cokorda Gede, Sukawati, will be want to build a palace. And then the father of the Lempad coming to palace, and then they receive very, very sweet and very, very well, because he is architect.
Shit, I cannot. No, I would like to stand, but I cannot. Yes, so that's not a problem. Yeah. Yes, we have to get into history a little. Yeah. Now, you see, Ubud, at the end of the 19th century, was a growing power in the southern part of Bali. Yeah. Its king was a very good warrior. At the same time, he was one of the first Balinese noblemen who imported weapons from Singapore, you see, through Couteau. So he was a strong man, and he defeated a number of the other kings around Ubud. And since he was a strong man, you had many villages and villagers who came to him to consider him as the strong man of this area of Bali. At the same time, you had a war that was waged in Mengwi, and Mengwi was destroyed by a Puputan. And at the time, you had a number of noblemen from Mengwi. They took refuge in Bali, in Ubud, because the Ubud king was known to be rich and to protect anyone who was coming to him to ask for protection. Yeah. So carry on. Yeah.
And after father of Lempad and Lempad will be a build area in the palace. They have three family. One Puri Serenkangin, one Puri Agung, and one Puri Serenkau. And also the place for the ceremony of the people we call Semangga. And also they have a place also for Ancak Saji.
So what he's talking here, so you had a king, but it wasn't a king in the Western sense of the word. Yeah. You had three important men in control of Ubud at the beginning of the last century, just before the Dutch came and took over, you see, Ubud. Yeah. So you had three families. Yeah. And in one of them, Lempad found protection. Yeah. Yeah.
And then setelah already in the palace is ready, everything is very nice until now, because everybody to be Ubud is the best of the palace. Ubud is the place, even the gate, even the house, everything, because in the palace people everything now like either Chokordo Gede organize all the people, very power, and then either Chokodo Oko, father of the Chokodo Murah, the best of the culture, and also Balinese, and also Puri Serenkangin, either Chokodo Oko, the best of the healing, like in Bali, like a dukun.
So, excuse me, I should catch up a little. Yeah. So, Lempad's father was involved as an architect with Lempad itself when Ubud had a big earthquake. Yeah. So the whole village of Ubud was destroyed. And since the king had managed to broaden, you see, the area under Ubud power, you see, from the sea in Kletewel to Taro to the north, yeah. So he was considered a very rich man, yeah. But there were other princes, and one of them was in charge of culture, you see, Chokordo Ngurah, yeah. And Chokordo Ngurah became, you see, became the, how to translate that, became a sort of lord for Lempad. Because people who were building the temples and the palaces here, they were doing that on order from the palace, usually. So they were just the hands of the nobility, you see. And what was being transmitted was actually the invisible power of the nobility was being transmitted to the palace and to the buildings they were constructing through Lempad and through Lempad's father. If you built a temple if you built a palace, you transmitted power, you see. The power was not that of the architect, at least in the mind of the people of these days. The power was that of the noblemen. Yeah. They always started with their hands, we say in Balinese. So Lempad and Lempad father, they became the hands of the Ubud nobility when they built or rebuilt, you see, buildings and temples in Ubud and the vicinity of Ubud. And today we still have many buildings that have been constructed, you see, by Lempad and his father. Yeah.
And then Lempad coming bigger, and then Lempad, sorry, and Lempad coming bigger. They have a friend close by Cokodongurah, because Cokodongurah very clever to read of the Balinese book we call lontar. Many lontar, many book they have a story about Bali, like Ramayana, Mahabharata, many book, and also about the medicine, about the like lontar of the white magic, black magic, everything they have there. And then Lempad every night to listen people to reading a book, start from 7 in the night until 12 in the morning, in the night. Took 4 hours, they listen of the history. Until Lempad, they have a very strong feeling. And then Lempad, other day, tomorrow, finish to listen the speak, Lempad making a sketch of the history.
So just to complete what is being said here. In Balinese tradition, you had people who were making Balinese manuscripts, which we call lontar. And people were reading these manuscripts. But they were doing so usually in specific places. They would do so in the princely palaces. They would read the traditional literature as well in the Brahmins' mansions, and on some occasions they would also read these texts during temple events. People who were listening to these stories, most of them couldn't read and write, but they heard the stories and they memorized the stories by attending the public lectures. So it had a similar function as the puppet show theater. It was yet another means to convey the basic principles of Balinese life. And Lempad was brought up, you see, within this type of society. And to a large extent, when Gusti Nyoman Darta was a young fellow, he was himself trained at the palace. At the time, they were still holding regular readings of the Mahabharata story, the Ramayana story, the classical old Javanese literature, or middle Balinese literature as well. So they were taught the life principles simply by attending theater or attending public lectures. So you see, it's a very different way to transmit knowledge. There were no schools. The schools were found in the theater. The schools were found in public readings. Yeah. Traditionally, in readings, yeah, you have the ones who know, they read while chanting. You have another fellow who is translating into Balinese. And the young ones, or the outsiders, they are in the outer circle. And they listen, and once in a while, they ask questions. But they never question the content here, because what is being uttered are texts which had and still have today, to a certain extent, a sacred value. So Lempad and Darta were both of them trained within this system, which has nothing to do with today's schooling. So it's better if I stand while talking, you see.
After that one, Lempad very clever to architect, but not artist in the moment. Because every day want to have a program in palace, always make a sketch about the building, about everything. And then, so long time, when Lempad already coming bigger, and then because they very success to build everything, like a temple, like, and then father of Lempad and Lempad, they get a present land to stay in Ubud and in house of Lempad now.
Yeah, so you see, he became so famous, at least with the palace people, that he was given a piece of land by the prince, by the Ubud prince, yeah, as a reward. Yeah. Because traditionally, you see, if you were a good artist, or if you were a good masseur, you see, you could be given a piece of land beyond the tree over there, you see, or on the other side of the river, you see. A piece of land that was given to you and which you could use as long as you would show up for the upcoming cremation or the upcoming special event here. So it was a feudal system. And Lempad was how you call that in English, a retainer of the palace. Yeah. He lived from the palace, but he provided knowledge about the way to build temples. He was not yet the artist we are going to discuss about, you see, in a few minutes. Yeah.
Setelah after that one, Lempad already have a house, and then Lempad married with ladies from Ubud, his brother of my grandfather. And then the first wife of Lempad didn't born the baby. And then the father of Lempad and Lempad very worried because he didn't have a baby. After that one consultation, because the young sister of wife of Lempad still young, and then married again with Lempad. Lempad have two wives, and then wife number two, they have 6 ladies and son.
So what he's saying is very important here. Because if you marry in Bali, it's to have male children. Why male children? Because without a male child, who is going to look after you when you pass away, you see? You have to have a son who is going to look after the temple and make the offerings and utter the prayers. Yeah. So it was, and it is still today, a good reason to ask for divorce. Yeah. If your wife doesn't make you a male heir.
And then after that one, Lempad already quiet in his house. On 1922, one of the tourists from Germany coming to Ubud named as Walter Spies. Walter Spies is the very good artist, walk around in Ubud. She loved Ubud very well. And then the first one, Walter Spies coming to Ubud, stay in the palace.
So, may I explain a little more about Walter Spies here? So, after the First World War, you see, you had a number of Westerners who had been in the war, been disgusted by the war, and they had lived in Germany, they lived in Holland, or in a few other places here. And what did they see in these days here? They saw ultranationalists coming up in Germany, the Knappkup. Yeah. They saw the Bolsheviks coming to power in Russia. So they saw the decay of Western societies. Yeah. And one of these artists who were disgusted by what they were witnessing in the Western world was a fellow called Walter Spies. Yeah. So he was born German in Russia. You see. And during the First World War, he was made prisoner by the Russians and sent to live among the Bashkirs, somewhere in the Ural Mountains. Yeah. And after the Bolshevik, you see, the communist, took power in Moscow, he went to Moscow. And he was involved for a time with what's the name? Mayakovsky, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He was involved for a time with Russian artists, but he became quickly disappointed by what the Bolsheviks were doing in Moscow. Yeah. So he managed to cross the lines and he went back to Germany. And there he found a similar type of cultural decay, you see, with the Germans had been defeated by the during the First World War, and so you had a far right coming up, and you had also the far left. So what did he do? He went to Holland. Holland hadn't participated to the First World War. Yeah. So he found a ship, and he came to Indonesia. And since he was a very good musician, he found a job in Bandung. He played during the first movies that were being played in Bandung. Then he went to Yogyakarta, and he ended up in Bali. And it's when it's going to be important for Lempad. Yeah. Because Walter Spies was a Westerner. Yeah. And in the West, you have a tradition of drawing. So it means if you draw, the line is not only descriptive, but you also try to convey impressions through the line. So the line is autonomous. It finds its own ways when you draw. The Balinese didn't know the art of drawing at the time, yeah. Because when the Balinese were making paintings, if you give a look at classical Balinese paintings, you will see what they say, what they talk about are stories. They tell the same stories you will find in the puppet show theater, or you will listen to during public readings here. So their stories, in their stories, you find a strict iconography. In Balinese painting, it is storytelling. Everything is patterned. There is no freedom in the linear expression. And Spieß came with another system of representation when the line is free. He didn't teach Lempad how to draw. Lempad never had the analytical approach to drawing, but he intuitively understood that there was something new there. Yeah. So he questioned himself in a non-intellectual way, intuitively. He saw that the line could be autonomous. And what did he do? He started drawing. And we started seeing in Bali a new type of line, not through education in the Dutch way, but a non-analytical, intuitive understanding of the line. So the click was given by the Westerner, but it was not a purely Western transmission of knowledge. It was a transmission of knowledge based on what is best in Balinese culture, which is visual memory. Why visual memory? Because, as I told you, when people to learn, people go to theater. So they pick up stories through watching, and they are used to watch offerings, to watch dances. Their visual memory is very keen. So Lempad reinvented the line, you see, in a Balinese way, but through a more or less direct or more or less indirect influence from a Westerner. So I hope you understand what it's all about, you see. Very special system of transmission of knowledge of Lempad. Yeah. And Gusti Nyoman Darta is a heir of Lempad in his own descriptive, narrative ways. Yeah. Maaf itu ya, saya jelaskan soal garis di Lempad. Dan Walter Spieß.
After that one, and Walter Spieß, maybe stay in Bali only 3 months, back to the country, and then back again in the second time. Walter Spieß, they don't want to stay in the palace. They stay next door house of Lempad. And then every day, Walter Spieß come to Lempad house, and then they find Lempad very busy to make a drawing about everything. And then Walter Spieß tried, you are an artist. I'm not, I'm just drawing, I'm not artist. You are artist. And then Walter Spieß very pleased to Lempad, and he take all the sketch of Lempad, they bring to the country, and then they sell in the country. And then when Walter Spieß back again, and then Spieß give to Lempad money about the dollar, and Lempad pride. You sell my painting. How to big money we have? Why you give me big money? Because Lempad before they don't know about money. And then they give the dollar. Dollar is very expensive in Bali. And then you must make again lot of drawing. He say like that, water space. And water space like to stay in Ubud.
Yeah, what we have to insist on, it's at the time there was no paper, you see. So Walter Spies came with paper, with high quality Western paper. Previously, there was a sort of paper made in Bali, or people used wooden panels to draw, yeah. But there wasn't the kind of high quality paper which enabled, you see, the Balinese to have the line running on the paper freely, you see. It was made possible by people like Walter Spies, yeah. And of course, they had a very personal relationship here. Walter Spies was a fellow who had been introduced to the princely families here. So he was very well received by the princely families. Perhaps he didn't want to stay with them. Perhaps he was more interested by the life of the ordinary people, yeah. But, and Lempad visited him. Lempad was very soon interested in getting paper because he discovered what it was possible to do with that, yeah. So they had a sort of special friendship, you see, with Walter Spies starting to pick up elements of Balinese culture, and Lempad himself trying to get as much as he could, you see, from his contacts with the Westerner. Yeah. At the time, you see, there were no Westerners. Yeah. The Dutch had just opened an ordinary road between Ubud and Denpasar, and the king of Ubud had a car, you see, but in front of his car you had dragons, and he would once in a month or once every 2 months go to Denpasar using his car, but he stopped every 300 or every 500 meters to put an offering on the temples. You see, the car was passing along, you see. So it was very different from now. And even myself, you see, when I came to Bali the first time, there were very few cars, unlike today, sadly.
After that one, and Water Space going around in Bali, and Water Space they love Ubud because Ubud is very art, very romantic, everything like a weather very nice, and Water Space love Ubud, and he want to build a house, and then Water Space come to Lempad together going to the palace because all area in Ubud belong to the palace. And then Cokordo Murah, because he loved Lempad, and he say, okay, I give the land to Walter Spies in Champuan Hotel. Before not hotel, only the bank. And Walter Spies like to stay in the south of the bank because in the corner of the house of Walter Spies, they have a very nice temple, Pura Gunung Lebah we call. And then Walter Spies must be Lempad build this house. And then Lempad love build the house of the Water Spies in Champuan. Until they have a house, and then Water Spies need one of the drawing from Lempad, the style of Raja Pala, and then the hanging in the wall, and then tourists, guests from German like very much, and selling. After that one, Lempad very creative to make a drawing and water speak. You don't only make drawing house, you must make drawing culture, everything about Bali. And Lempad still to make a drawing until water space take the drawing and make exhibition everywhere, something like that.
So you have to understand that the first drawing told the story of a peeping Tom. You see. And when Walter Spies built his house in Champuan, it overlooked the, you call that in English, the rivers. You
The
see,
river.
the two rivers coming together. And there you had many women as well as handsome men, you see, bathing all the time, you see, bathing nude. I don't know to which extent he was motivated, sexually motivated, but let me say it was not impossible that he had another motivation than purely aesthetic. Yeah. And yeah, so you can still go there and see the house of Walter
Why?
Spies. Yeah.
When I just thinking about House of the Spies, it's not just only the view, because Spies likes very much to see the people, woman, boy, bath in the river without the clothes.
Yeah.
And then also sometimes Walter Spies make the painting, people bath in the river without the clothes, and then concentration of the Walter Spies coming rich, and then he won't stay in Bali. And then the second one, on 1930, they have also artists from Holland, name is Bonnet. Mr. Bonnet come to Ubud and find the Spies in Ubud, and Mr. Bonnet likes very much with Ubud. And Mr. Bonnet follow the Spies, also want to have a house in Ubud. And then Lempad, Walter Spies, come to the palace, ask the land. And then Bonnet have a house in the corner next room of the Walter Spies. And Bonnet have a house. And then Bonnet, they love Bali because Bonnet very, very good to make a painting about the anatomy, everything. Because everything Lempad, Bonnet make a piece very, very nice, and also very good painting from Bonnet. And also the artist in Bali look is this is stories to good make a painting. But Walter Spies good making the aerial like a panorama, like a tree, and also the light of the sun. Everybody like also. And two people from out country to organize the painting in Bali, and then he look around, and also they look around in Ubud, many pintar, many artists, like in Padang Tegal, like in Sukawati, like everywhere.
So that's interesting. You see what he's saying, because he's talking about the other big Western name in Bali, quite different actually from Walter Spies. But you had, with regard to Rudolf Bonnet, a different type of transmission of knowledge, but based on similar principles. I told you about the peculiarities of Balinese visual memory. Gusti Nyoman Darta told us that Rudolf Bonnet was good with anatomy. So he was good with the analytical approach from the West. classical Western approach. The Balinese artist who saw Bonnet's works didn't follow the analytical approach, but they saw what Bonnet was doing and they memorized it. So, to a certain extent, they tried to duplicate the anatomical approach. But it was a simile. And the style we find now in Bali, where you have elongated people, you see you have the appearance of anatomy, which is not genuine anatomy. It's based on the Balinese interpretation through their memory rather than through their mind of Western principles of representation. Even though now, 70 or 80 years later, we see Balinese who have picked up the analytical approach and were able to be realistic in the Western sense of the word. So the Balinese understood, you see, Western anatomical approach. They understood it while misunderstanding it. So it's a very interesting phenomenon. Another interesting phenomenon, it's what he's talking about. He's talking about Western artistry. As if what is important in Bali, as if it were the Western artist and not the local Balinese artist here. There is a sort of overvaluation of the Western contribution toward Balinese culture, which is, of course, a leftover from colonial superiority. And if I dare ask, something else here, even though Walter Spies and Rudolf Bonnet were the first Western artists, among the first Western artists to make individualized portraits of the Balinese, nevertheless, they did that for their own purpose, their own research. When they talked about the Balinese, they talked about they. When Walter Spies wrote about his experience in Ubud in Bali, he never talked about his individual friends. He talked about the Balinese in general. Because the Balinese corresponded to what he was dreaming about, a sort of paradise that didn't have, you see, the ugly aspects of Western culture after the war and during the war. Yeah. Excuse me for the side comments, but perhaps that's important. Yeah, we have the Balinese were they, not we, they. But at the time, it was almost impossible for a Westerner talking of his position in Indonesian society, in Balinese society, and to use the word we. Myself, I try to use we I don't know whether I am successful in the matter. I have a friend of mine here who knows better. Teruskan ya.
And then event Lempad follow all the speech and bonnet. Lempad don't forget about the walk in the palace. Every have a ceremony in the palace, even the cremation, even the temple festival, even the festival of the people in the temple, in the palace, Lempad always coming. Until Lempad prepare all the cremation in Ubud, make the tower very, very high, and make very nice bowl and very nice dragon. And the Lempad, the best of the worker of the everything of the cremation.
That's interesting, you see, because what does it mean? Even though this fellow was a genius, and I hope you will see his works in several museums in Ubud. Although he was a genius, he had no autonomy, and he didn't feel he had to be in a genuine autonomy as an artist. The artist, the concept of the artist, didn't exist. He was a servant of the palace. He had got his land through the palace, and he had to give back services to the palace, that he could exist as an autonomous individual, try to gain recognition as an artist. Of course, didn't come to his mind. It was, and perhaps to a certain extent, it was something new, the notion of the individual artist. Of course, from the point of view of the Westerners who came to Bali, who discovered, you see, Lempad's works here, in their view, Lempad was a great artist, and the nobility was negligible. But from a Balinese point of view, what mattered was the nobility. People who gave access to the land, people who had control over the main deities, who were awakened during temple festivals. The notion of the artist as having something to express of himself, in itself, didn't exist. The individual artist in Bali is a creation of colonization. And of course you have, when you pass from tradition to modernity, you have people like Gusti Nyoman Darta, you see. And it's very interesting to listen to Gusti Nyoman Darta. He's not talking about himself. He's talking about the genius of his grandfather, even though he himself is a maestro. But he's talking about the fellow who managed to get what we call in Balinese the taksu, you see, the cosmic eye, which means the inspiration, but not the inspiration in the Western sense of the word. The inspiration we get from communicating with the world of the ancestors and the cosmic world beyond. You see, is humility, you see. And
So long,
I-
water,
wa-
space, and
yang saya bilang bahwa mestinya kita berbicara juga tentang Darta itu sendiri.
so long
Yang
when
ada
water,
berbicara.
space, and bonnet very love Bali, and he consultation with Lempad. He want to make a group of the art, and then Lempad, bonnet, and water, space come to the palace to meet Cokordo Agung Sukawati. Cokordo Agung Sukawati is to be a king in Ubud, to want to have like a company of the artists, and then Lempad, water, space, bonnet, Cok Agung, to make a group of the art we call Pitamaha. From the Pitamaha, organize all the artists around in Bali, not only in Ubud. They have a 7 group of artists from the art, from Pengosekan, from Batuan, from Sukawati, from Klungkung, from Denpasar, from everywhere. They organized by Pitamaha and Water Space, and the company make a promotion of the art in Bali.
So here he's talking about change, you see. So setting up of an organization to promote and sell Balinese art. Yeah. But what does it mean? It means that during 10 or 15 years, you had local artists inspired by the presence of Westerners, inspired by the market the Westerners were providing, started changing the Balinese system of representation. Moving away from the narrative myth and beginning to depict scenes of daily life, you see. Starting to have an objective perception of reality in their own half traditional, half modern ways. But it easily found a market in these days, yeah. Because in Indonesia at the time, when they set up the organization he was talking about, you had something like 200,000 Dutch living in the cities in Java. And these Dutch provided a ready-made market here. And of course, they made also a number of exhibitions in Europe here. So Bali became known for the peculiarity of this art here. Some people call the art that was produced at the time modern Balinese art. Myself, I would rather call it post-traditional art, because even though the Balinese were now trying to depict reality, this reality was still very patterned, as it is in tradition, even though the paintings and drawings were not talking about myth anymore, but about scenes of daily life here. So what we were witnessing was little by little a change in the mindset of the local artist, and of course, at the same time, of the Balinese. And this was taking place at the same time as well as the first schools in Malay, in Indonesian, were being opened in Priatan, in Sukawati, in Denpasar. And what did the pupils learn to do in these schools here? They were given a bottle, I give it as an example, and they were told to imitate the bottle. They started being taught the principles of analytical approach. So we were witnessing the shift away from tradition and the beginning of modernity. And someone like Darta, Gusti Nyoman Darta, is a witness of this change. Because when he's talking about Lempad, but when he was a young boy, he was himself at the palace. Yeah. He was taken to school, but he too witnessed the way stories were being read in public. Yeah. He too, when he was a kid, learned more from watching dances, watching puppet show theater, than learning at school. Yeah. So he has these two aspects in the self. Yeah. The Balinese tradition, the Western tradition. And continue a little with Lempad. Nanti kita, we will, I think to close about Lempad, we can talk about him. Yeah.
And then, already like that, on 1957, I born on 1951, 6 years old, I moved from my parents to stay in the palace. I organized in the palace with Ida Cekodongura to make a better night, cleaning in the yard. And every night I listen the reading of the book with Lempad, with around every night. And then I stay when they have a good reading, I must call Lempad come to the palace until 11 o'clock, something in the palace, always like that. And then I talked to the Lempad on 1970 when I start to make a sketch in the school. And Lempad say very funny, if you want to learn drawing like me, you don't must be quick come to my house because my son don't want to teaching someone. She like that. But Lempad asked to me, if you want to learning drawing like me, you focus your feeling, you rough your pencil, and your meditation, hug me. You will be possible to make drawing like me.
That's very nicely said, yeah. But what does it mean, yeah? It means that actually the transmission of knowledge was based on the awareness of his visual memories, concentration, inspiration by what he had seen the old man drawing, and trying to do similar things based on what is in his mind rather than in his pure knowledge. And which is how he became an artist. And perhaps your story of Ekalayer.
And then Lempad say, when the Cekodongura read of the book, they have a story about Ekalayo. Ekalayo is the history of the Mahabharata. When Mahabharata, the group of the Pandawa, Arjuna, Bhima, 5 group, and then 100 group from the Karawa, learn to shooting, learn to gun, like a shooting, how to best. And then the teacher, his name is Drono. But already love of children, one of the people from the not so rich man, very poor man, named Ekalayo. Ekalayo need to learn with this teacher, and the teacher they don't want to teach is the boy. Oh, you not possible to learning with the son of the king. Better you learn in the out. And then Ekalayo back very sad. Why I am poor? Didn't will be children in the school. And then Ekalayo going to the forest. He make the statue like a Drono, like the teacher.
So he made a statue of his teacher, yeah.
Yeah.
And
then,
he used the statue as an inspiration to learn the skill of the bow.
and then every day they do. When they wrong, not focus, they ask, why? He'll just on herself. And then until many times they're very, very clever. One of the repetition, because the Drono, the teacher said, the best suit is Arjuna. And then Ekalaya going repetition. And then Arjuna the best one. And then Drono, no one is the best than Arjuna. And then Ekalaya try, can I try? And they shoot 6 of the dog, pass until 6 of the dog, the best one shot. And the teacher very proud. Who is your teacher? Drona. No, I don't have a children like you. Who is your teacher? You. No, I don't teach you. And then until, because I make statue like your flower in the forest, now you is my teacher. If you heard me as teacher, can I need one of from your clever? Because I'm wrong speak. The best one of the suit is Arjuna. Oh yes, I'm pleased with my teacher. Even they don't learn in Drona. And Drona need one of the finger of Ekalaya. They cut the finger and then they give to Arjuna. And then now Arjuna to have 2 fingers. And then Ekalaya not good suit again. That is the history. Not just only the close to the teacher if you learn, you only heard the teacher until you clever.
So it means, you see, you have to follow whatever your teacher is telling you to do, yeah. And so he sacrificed his own thumb, yeah.
Yeah. And then I learned. Start on 1970, I make a drawing. One of the people from Swiss stay in the palace. I stay still in the palace. And then he looked my drawing, name of Gaspar de Marpa from Switzerland. He liked my drawing. He always buy my drawing. He likes very much. I collect the money and then I buy the gold because I don't know to going to the bank. Money I make with the gold until I have maybe 30 of a ring. Yeah. After that one, I school, and then the palace need the money. I give the ring and the money he sell and he give me land. Until now, this land I use. And then Lempad said, oh, your drawing is good. You must learn more. And then I try, and then when I finish in the art school, I can't believe my teacher to give me to teaching my school in the art school. Because difficult to have be a teacher, but I'm very easy to find. And then I just do it. I don't know. Another one coming is Mr. Brege. Collect also all my drawing. He buy. He give me money. And then my money I use for my life and build a house, everything. And then I don't know. John and Brege coming to my house. Saw the copy of my drawing already long time ago. And start making what is the name of this drawing and then. And then I don't know, it's John and Brigitte to make a book named Time Right Festival in Bali. And then this is the book, it's meant from John and Brigitte. And then I'm very proud. I have a book, and then I always had to drawing.
You see, the problem with this book here, I must say it was a good book here, which sold very well, and it's now out of print here. And we were going to republish it at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and the publisher passed away. And we are trying to find a new publisher and also to get back, you see, the file, you see, to be able to republish it here. Yeah. It's a book, yeah. And we didn't become rich, but
And then
we could.
on 1967, Cekodongurah dead. And then Grand Lempad to make a very high tower, 40-meter high. And then
Cremation Tower.
yeah, cremation tower and the big dragon, very very nice. The best Lempad do for his teacher, because Cekodongurah teacher of the Lempad, of the culture, of the story, about everything. If Lempad want to make a drawing, when they forget of the story, they come to Cekodongurah to ask the story, until all the Lempad topic of the drawing become to Cekodongurah. And then after that one, 1978, Lempad dead. In 8 Lempad, 116 Lempad. Even Lempad 100 years, still they make a drawing. Look at sick people, but still drawing. He can be forget everything. But when Lempad on 60, 80, 70 is funny spot. They do spot when they're feeling not good. They do spot. Spot Lempad is digging the dirt. Digging the dirt. When I coming to Lempad house, he put me on top of the digging and Lempad taking me around in his area. Only 1.5 hours, Lempad already tired and then sweat. Lempad sit, have a coffee and boil sweet potato, and I got also sweet potato. That is the work of the Lempad. Always funny. Lempad like to listen to singing, everything nice. And then Lempad very quiet and very friendly. He never have angry with other people, but he give me job cleaning, everything. When all the children already out, he fill up the art. Just like that, the Lempad do every day until he dead.
Yes, that's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. So when Lempad dead, they have also grandson from Lempad. Name is Mr. Sudara, Gusti Nyoman Darta. He's also make a drawing like Lempad because he follow copy from the drawing of Lempad because he's his grandfather. And then Lempad is Mr. Sudara is work in the art school, but now still live, but they can't possible to drawing because they already sickness. You know. And then maybe not so old than me, Mr. Sudara itu he's around more old 5 years than me.
So I must say that now you see Gusti Nyoman Darta has produced a series of drawings here with a classical Balinese story. The story of Grantang and Chupak, you see. All the drawings are ready, and we are looking for a new publisher, yeah. But now perhaps you have questions, yeah. Questions about Lempad, questions about Bali, questions about just anything, yeah. Kita sekarang pertanyaan, ya.
Lovely. Where can we see is there anywhere we can see these drawings?
Yes, we should go to Neker's Museum.
Oh, Nickers, yeah.
Also, they have several Lempad paintings at the Puri Lukisan, and you have a couple of very good ones at Arma Museum. Actually, we have made a beautiful book, 2 books actually, with 2 publishers. I wrote one of them, and there was other people, several people, they also made another book, 2 books. Each of these books is that thick, you see, about beautiful books. And I guess it's now 2 or 3 million if you want to purchase one, yeah.
Okay, 1 minute. Yeah. That was great. Thank you, gentlemen. That was a clinic, yeah.
Questions?
The Darta's paintings are downstairs. There's also one right there. And if you're really, really interested, his son is our chef. So you just talk to Santi back there, and if you're really interested, there probably could be an arrangement to go to his 3rd floor gallery and see some of them. Yeah. I'm going to pass this around. It's a donation thing for republishing the book, helping Darta publish the next book, which we have all the photos for and everything. And lastly, has anyone ever been to Paris? Yeah? There's a very famous museum there called the Broadway Museum. Darta's paintings are in the Broadway Museum because George Breguet, who he spoke of, donated them to the museum.
Yeah, they have a number of paintings about the Balinese calendar, you see, about the Tumpak days of the Balinese calendar, related to the daily life, you see.
Just put your hand up, and my staff will bring you a microphone, and we can go into open questions now. Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you very much for a very interesting talk. While listening for you, like you talking, I was thinking, does Pitamaha organization who started to promote Balinese art for the Westerners, and then even like I understood
Was part of what?
Pitamaha?
Yeah.
I think the Papa was telling about this organization that Walter speaks and then other one was creating. Do you think that exactly from that organization, when they started to promote Balinese art abroad or to other Westerners who was in Indonesia, started, you could say, started the tourism in Bali? Because people started to see the art, they started to see people, how they draw, who is Balinese and everything, and started to be interested more in Bali than before. This I don't say it's main one, but can it be influenced when the tourism in Bali started? Like people started to know more about Bali through the art?
What you mean, the influence of tourism on representation?
Because like I understood, there was created organization of the artists.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and they started to spread the Balinese artist works around for the Westerners to say, to reach and touch people in Java or somewhere else. So it means that Balinese art was spread, right, from the island. And when you spread something, it means more people knows about Bali.
Of course, you see, it played an important role in the diffusion of the knowledge of about Bali, you see, because there were exhibitions just in some of the main cities in the world, even in Japan and in the United States, in Europe, mainly in Holland, and also in Paris, you see, during the colonial exhibition of 31, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. Of course, but I do not think it had any impact on the system of representation of Western art, yeah. Unlike theater, you see. You see, Western directors, when they saw, I forgot the name of the French writer, you see, when they saw Balinese dance, you see, some of them reshaped, you see, the way they structured plays, yeah. Particular with regard to the participation of the spectators into the theater, yeah. Yeah, but I don't think in art, I don't recall any direct influence, yeah. But it became a fashion, and until today, Balinese art is still, I wouldn't say well and alive, yeah, but it still resists the onslaught of modernity to a certain extent, yeah. Even though now, if you go to Couteau, for example, they don't draw, they don't paint the way they did during the Bonnet's days, yeah. Now, they start really mastering, you see, the analytical, academic system of representation. There has been an evolution in the mindset of the Balinese through education, and yeah. I don't know whether I answered your question. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
There wasn't really tourism in the 80s, let's face it.
There wasn't any?
There wasn't tourism in the 80s in Ubud, hardly. I mean, really, so Water Spies wasn't responsible at all for that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, there was very little tourism here in the 80s, and the Spies was long before then. Thank you very much. Really enjoyable, by the way. I'm a huge fan of Water Spies. It's sort of dreamy, mythical.
Actually, there are still many things to learn from Bali, especially if you can attend, you see, traditional dances here. I mean, not the dances or the ceremonies you see in Ubud proper, but if you go to more remote villages, yeah. Because now everything is changing. When you have shows, now you see, the representation is being structured, you see. You have seats, and traditionally you have people sit around the dancers, for example, you see. It's not a show, you see, there is participation. It's what Antonin Artaud wrote about, you see, with regard to theater. Participation of theaters, yeah. Do you have any other question, any kind of question here?
Hello. I have a question. Okay, speaking about like 2 weeks I've been here. So the first thing actually I did in Bali is to visiting the galleries. And what's impressed me a lot about what I see, about the visual. You know, I saw the paintings of Balinese art. Is the likeness, like it's how to say? I can even feel like there's the kind of feeling or sense of a spirit or so, even with the shape of the flower or the plants or the animals. So, and then I learned the word taksu, which is very interesting. And after today, I hear so many about history of the art development. I have a strange feeling or complicated feeling about what do you think about the Western influence on the local art and how the taksu is still being involved.
You see, the taksu has become a myth here now. Everyone will talk about taksu here, which can be translated by inspiration, but actually it's something different, yeah. Because traditionally, people look for taksu. And you get taksu by visiting special temples. So you get the power emanating from these temples, and you try to catch it for yourself. If you are going to be a painter or a dancer, you try to catch, you see, the power of the place, yeah. So, but taksu, the way it is being used now by most people, it has become a myth, yeah. Also, in Balinese temples, usually have a small shrine which is dedicated to your taksu. It's your means of communication with the forces from over there, you see. So the problem when things are conceptualized by the Balinese, yeah, and even by anyone, they are being turned into absolute truth, whereas in tradition, there was no strict conceptualization. Everything remained vague, didn't have to be strictly defined. That's an innovation which comes from the West, yeah. But you were asking me a question about the Western influence. It's huge now. Indonesian and Balinese modernity is certainly Western. Of course, people will tell you that they remain Balinese, yeah. But the claim of identity is becoming louder and louder. But the reality of the local life, the reality of the traditional memory is shrinking, you see. For example, now in Bali, what is strictly Balinese in daily life, perhaps no more than 20 or 25% of what you see in Bali. Much of the culture we see is national, and part of the culture is also international. The language itself is shrinking, you see. It's not easy to speak Balinese now because people are reluctant to use the local language. Yeah. On top of that, to give you other signs of transformation of Bali, land has become a commodity. Another sign, you see, transformation in the ethnic composition of the island, with apparition of political side to Balinese and non-Balinese identities, you see. Globalization is not something nice. It creates tensions, which is something recent, because in Balinese society, you see the notion of otherness was not important. People, if you were a Christian 40 years ago, people would tell you that Christians are like the Balinese. I heard it myself. Oh, you are Christians? Christus, listen, Krishna, the God Krishna, Christus, Krishna, we are the same. People would always emphasize similarity, you see, what they shared. Now, people emphasize differences. It's a huge change, actually, in the mindset of the local people here. Excuse me, I go here and there, yeah.
Selamat malam ya.
Selamat malam. Ya.
Bonsoir, Jean. belajar sama I Gusti Nyoman Lempad pergi ke sekolah seni ya, betul ya, di Denpasar atau di Ubud?
Di Ubud.
Di Ubud.
Ya.
Saya mau tanya jadi apa sekolah seni itu merubah cara Gusti membuat karya seni atau belajar teknik seni yang berbeda dengan apa yang diajarkan oleh Gusti Nyoman Lempad?
Ya, kalau belajar seni di sekolah seni itu kan tidak menjurus seni. Ada sejarah, ada banyak di situ seni pematung ada seni modern, lukisan-lukisan, juga ada dosen-dosen dari Denpasar mengajarnya. Ada teknik pewarna, ada teknik apa-apa. Saya juga memahami itu karena masa kecil saya untuk membeli kampas dan warna tidak punya modal. Nah, terus saya membuat gambaran dari kertas. Nah, kalau kertas diwarna itu kurang megah rasanya gitu. Nah, akhirnya saya mempunyai ide, kok kakek Lempad bisa terkenal dengan garis yang hitam putih dan sedikit warna merah dan sedikit warna kuning. Nah, setelah saya tanya kakek Lempad bahwa arti warna itu difilosofikan dengan kekuatan seperti Bali gitu. Makanya di Bali itu kekuatan yang paling kuat untuk power namanya Trimurti. Trimurti itu terdiri dari Brahma, Wisnu, dan Siwa. Nah, di dalam tubuh kita itu 3 kekuatan itu ada. Di antaranya kekuatan kita, kalau salah satu kekuatan kita ini lemah, pasti kita sakit. Misalnya temperatur kita turun, kita sakit. Badan kita kepenuhan air, kita sakit.
Jadi
Boleh saya terjemahkan sebentar ya? Yeah, you see what he's saying is something very interesting. He's saying that within the self, we have the three comic forces of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, with the corresponding colors here. And these colors and the gods are found on the rose of the winds, you see, the directions of the compass. It's what he's talking about now.
And I was asking him how his modern studies at this art school impacted on his artistic practice as a Balinese traditional artist. And he was explaining to me how the two different traditions kind of like interacted in his personal practice. Kemudian Gusti saya mau tanya juga ya, jadi selama bertahun-tahun ini Gusti berkarya, apa Gusti merubah gaya seninya begitu? Ada perubahan nggak sejak dari sekolah seni sampai sekarang begitu ya, dengan pengaruh dari dunia luar, dari luar Ubud, dari luar Bali?
Itu sebenarnya ada.
Ada ya?
Ada, pasti itu ada. Terutama postur-postur. Itu kebetulan di rumah banyak lingkup seniman-seniman Jawa yang tinggal di rumah saya dulu. Ya, seperti ada orang Jakarta, seperti ini ada pelukis terkenal dulu tinggal di rumah.
Siapa namanya?
Pak Abbas. Pak Abbas itu lama tinggal di rumah karena waktu itu dia mau diangkat jadi menteri oleh Pak Soeharto. Karena lama dia tidak diresmikan, dia lari. Menginap di rumah saya sampai berbulan-bulan gitu. Nah, dia melukis itu sangat gampang. Sampai museum-museum Bali itu, Pak Neke, Pak Rudano, Agung Rai, 1 jam menunggu dia melukis, cepat dia dapat uang. Ya, akhirnya saya mulai tergiyak, kok dia melukis ini cepat, 2 jam, 3 jam sudah dapat uang. Saya melukis berminggu-minggu, berbulan-bulan juga susah gitu. Tetapi saya tidak pindah ke situ karena saya ingin menguatkan filosofis Bali. Karena lukisan Lempad sama lukisan saya itu hanya tidak ada lukisannya saja. Karena di situ ada tema pelajaran, ada tema filosofis. Seperti karma pala ada di situ, cara berbuat yang baik, sudah itu menegakkan culture Bali seperti upacara manusianya, dewasanya. Nah, lebih banyak berpedoman sama Tuhan. Apa sebab? Karena
He
kita
says,
itu
excuse me, he says that his paintings, or his drawings, are meant to have a philosophical meaning, philosophical Balinese meaning. And he was asked to see what was the influence of Indonesian
Non-Balinese
artists,
art from outside Bali.
Indonesian artists, non-Balinese Indonesian artists who came to Bali. It was he has been talking about, and this
And then
interested.
he mentioned
Yeah.
that certain stylistic influences obviously impacted his artistic practice in terms of postures, in terms of styles, but at the end of the day, he felt that it was important to convey Bali's philosophy and Balinese cosmology in his art. And so these things kind of root him in his, in his artistic practice. Exactly. You guys just have to learn Indonesian. Makes it more interesting, doesn't it?
Nah, setelah itu, misalnya tema lukisan saya ini, kenapa ada orang yang jahat?
Yeah.
Nah, ini namanya si Ludako ini selalu dia berburu membunuh binatang. Kan dia jahat itu.
Yeah.
Satu hari pada tilem kepitu namanya, gelap sekali, dia berburu, tidak menemukan binatang satupun, lalu datanglah macan. Takut dia, si Ludako itu takut dengan macan, nanti saya bisa dihabis. Akhirnya Ludako itu naik, dia tinggal di atas pohon bila namanya. Nah, dari situ dia takut sekali untuk pergi. Akhirnya pada malam itu dia tidak tidur-tidur. Dia petik daun-daun, petik ini untuk tidak ngantuk. Nah, pada satu saat, waktu tilem kepitu itu, Dewa Siwa sedang beryoga. Makanya disebut Siwa Latri. Nah, Siwa Latri itu berarti seperti Bali itu, di dalam 1 tahun, di dalam 6 bulan kita bisa menebus dosa.
So he's talking, you see, about a Shivaist theme in this article, you see. The fellow you see here is being pursued by a tiger, and he will spend the night in the forest, So he cuts, you see, he cuts the leaves, and slowly, you see, the leaves are going to constitute a lingam. So it's a work which he has made as part of Sivaistic meditation. And people, you see, once a year, around January or February, there is the longest night of the year where they tell these stories in public readings.
Nah, setelah itu, beberapa tahun kemudian, Eko Layo meninggal. Meninggal, lalu rohnya dijemput sama Yamaloka. Dia mau ditaruh di tempat penyiksaan. Waktu mau ditaruh di tempat penyiksaan, terus Siwa tahu, wah, itu Ludeko sudah mati, atmannya harus saya jemput gitu. Akhirnya antara Siwa dan Yama ini bertengkar, tapi lebih kuat Siwa. Akhirnya atman daripada Ludeko itu bisa naik ke sorga, ke Siwaloka, berkat dia hanya semadi semalam. Nah, makanya di Bali setiap Siwalatri, anak-anak muda itu dia akan tidur ya, laki perempuan itu pergi ke pura sembahyang, itu berlalu sampai sekarang. Nah, seperti itulah kekuatan. Sama seperti taksu yang dibilang tadi itu. Semua orang punya taksu. Sebab taksu itu kekuatan power yang timbul dari badan kita sendiri. Power itu apa? Misalnya satu orang, kita lihat tidak cantik. Tetapi dia kalau pergi ke salon, dengan tatanan yang rapi dan benar, kok orang bisa melihat, dia cantik sekali gitu. Jadi orang bisa tertarik dengan dia. Sedangkan kita bisa melihatnya, kok dulu dia jelek, sekarang kok cantik gitu. Nah itulah yang disebut taksu. Pekerjaan yang dikerjakan dengan memakai tenaga power, memakai kekuatan kita, feeling kita, konsentrasi itu, maka pekerjaan itu akan menjadi bagus dilihat oleh orang. Karena power kita yang masuk ke pekerjaan kita gitu. Makanya kalau orang melukis sembarang caca, sudah dijual orang, ini jelek lukisannya, bosan saya rugi saya beli. Mana ada powernya? Kan tidak ada. Makanya di Bali itu, taksu itu adalah power dari masing-masing orang. Semua yang hidup punya taksu. Tidak kita aja. Misalnya pohon-pohonan yang disebut dengan eko permano, dia akan melihat saya menanam pohon, kita tidak ingin menginjak ya. Is the power from the tree. Tree is we call is eko pramano. Why eko pramano? Tree can speak, can move, can communication, but they live, and then my life very beautiful. I like very much. Why you like very from the leaf? Because he's so very nice. It's the power. Power is the taxi. Even you have an animal a dwi pramana, they speak, but they don't have a communication well with the other. And then, why you love the dog? Why you love the animal? Why you love the bird? Because bird is singing, you until 1 hour listen singing of the bird. 1 hour you play with the dog. Because the dog is very beautiful. Make you close with the dog. Is the power, is the taxi. Even of the people. People we call is a three power. People thinking, people speak, people move. Communication well. And then you don't lose the power from your body. If you forget your body, your power is loose. You always keep your power in your body, give help well, and you can breathe you coming out. Everybody you see a good. Even you speak, how you speak with other people until the people very handsome from your speak. Even you angry, please you close your angry in your mind until the people even they kid he's not angry. Just like that is the taksu. Taksu always have, but sometimes if you lose to do something, taksu is lose. If you do bad, taksu is lose. You must start again. That one because the karma in Bali people very excited with karma pala. And then in Bali the life always follow with karma pala. Some of the people is forget with karma pala. Sometimes they do the bad. Is karma is the bad. That is in Bali.
Any other question?
Thank you very much.
There is one.
Still one person.
Gonna be a perfect closing question. Kak Gusti, saya mau mungkin tidak bertanya tapi apa jalan Kak Gusti untuk pemuda di Bali atau mungkin di Indonesia secara umum yang sedang memulai karir di bidang seni, bagaimana pesan Kak Gusti untuk para pemuda supaya tidak lupa dengan tradisi di tengah perkembangan. Bisa translate bahasa Inggris? So I was asking Kak Gusti about what is his advice to the emerging artists or the young people in general who want to learn about the art and about the culture, so they don't forget their roots in this modern world. Because now, like, everything is so fast, and at some point we need somebody to continue, and that's the young people.
Saya berbahasa Indonesia, nanti John yang mentranslate ya.
Yeah,
Kalau saya bahasa Inggris mungkin
which is
semua tidak
difficult.
ngerti.
It's difficult to translate.
Generasi sekarang ini kan banyak godaannya. Datangnya HP, datangnya apa, seperti judi online, apa yang betul-betul menyenangkan tapi menyusahkan. Harusnya kalau di Bali, terutama generasi muda kita di Bali, ada kumpulan yang bernama muda-mudi. Itu diorganize oleh Banjar, dan muda-mudi itu diarahkan kepada kepercayaan. Kepercayaan agama, kepercayaan hidup, kepercayaan segala-galanya. Karena di Bali itu ada 4 tahap yang harus dipelajari oleh orang-orang Bali. 4 tahap itu yang disebut dengan catur asrama. Catur asrama itu orang mulai lahir sampai mati tidak boleh berhenti belajar. Belajar terus apa yang ada di dunia ini dipelajari. Itu disebut dengan brahmacari. Apa yang diciptakan di dunia ini oleh Ida Batara Brahma harus dicari, dipelajari. Nah, di situ ada terus bayangan Ruwa Binedel, ada yang baik, ada yang buruk. Yang buruk juga harus dipelajari. Satu contoh, kita memukul orang, senang kita memukul orang, tapi orang yang dipukul itu sakit apa enggak? Coba diri kita dulu pukul dengan kekuatan kita, kalau sakit janganlah memukul orang. Nah, itulah pelajaran-pelajaran. Setelah kita belajar 20 tahun, kalau di universitas kita sudah sukses menjadi sarjana, kita harus melihat perempuan-perempuan sebagai jodoh kita yang disebut dengan Griya Hasta Asrama. Kita harus kawin sama perempuan karena kita diciptakan 2, laki dan perempuan. Kalau kita tidak melakukan tugas, kita akan kena denda nanti di sorga. Kenapa kamu tidak manfaatkan perempuannya? Yang perempuan juga gitu. Kenapa kamu tidak manfaatkan yang laki? Nah, setelah kita melakukan Griya Asrama, kita punya bekerja, kita punya keturun. Umur 65 tahun kita sudah pensiun. Nah, bekerjalah sampai umur 60 tahun cari uang, cari kekayaan. 60 tahun kita pensiun. Lalu kita disebut dengan wanaprastha. Wanaprastha itu kalau zaman dulu orang pergi ke hutan, semadi dan sebagainya. Nah, sekarang di Bali ini mana ada hutan? Karena banyak turis, banyak orang, banyak hotel, tidak ada crowded semua. Tetapi wanaprastha itu di diri kita sendiri. 1, kurangi main yang bukan-bukan, kurangi makan, karena kita sudah punya cucu. Makanan kita setengah, kasih cucu. Supaya cucu kita hidup lebih kuat daripada kita. Kita belajar mengurangi. Tidak bekerja lagi emosi untuk cari uang, untuk cari ini. Karena anak kita sudah tumbuh dengan baik. Anak kita yang sudah Griya Hasta dan sebagainya, kita tetap mengurangi. Mudah-mudahan kita berumur sampai 80 tahun. Sekarang generasi kita ini paling banter dia 70 tahun sudah reot sekali. Tidak akan sampai seperti Lempad 116 tahun. Kenapa? Karena makanan kita ini dibubuhi dengan chemical. Seperti peksin, seperti apa. Kalau zaman dahulu di Bali itu tidak ada peksin. Yang ada adalah daun-daunan. Iya, makanya kalau di Bali itu dulu saya jadi tukang masak di Puri Raja itu. Yang paling ngetren adalah daun salam. Karena bumbu Bali itu semua untuk pengobatan.
Yes, but perhaps we have to translate a little. You see, what he was explaining, which is the key of your what you want to know, yeah. that in Balinese tradition, in villages, yeah, you have the banjar, and with the banjar, you have a grouping of youth, males and females, yeah. And these youth are supposed to transmit the way of life of the Balinese in a certain way. You see, they should follow the rules of evolution of human life through the stages of life. Yeah? When you are young, you see, you are brahmachari, it's when you study. After that, you have the age of building a family. And after that, you have the age, which we call it grehasta, yeah. So that you have the age when you withdraw from active life, yeah. It's vanaprastha. And then you have the age when you prepare to die and you turn into a bhiksu, you see. It's we call bhiksuka in Balinese. So people should follow the rhythm, the phases of life here, behaving correctly in such a way that when they die, you see, their soul will be taken back to the holy mountain where it will reside, you see, with the other ancestral souls before coming back to Bali. Yeah. Any other question? In French, it would be better, yeah.
It's been a very enlightening evening.
Thank you very, very much.
We're gonna lighten the lights, and if there's more questions, they can be informal. You guys can just hang around and ask either of them. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. Tomorrow we have Siku. It's a Sundanese question.